So, I had a thought while I was out running, and sometimes they do happen, believe it or not. I do have them. And I was out running and I was monitoring my knee because it didn't feel quite right. Something was off, and I was monitoring it, and I was thinking about injuries in general. And then when I finished the run, I was thinking, man, do you know what? I have quite a lot of knowledge from a degree and from being a coach and from being a PE teacher that really helps me deal with injuries before they happen. And then I thought, man, I don't know if I've ever made a video about the injuries before they happen, preventative measures that I could make for you so that you could have the same knowledge I do so that you could prevent injuries happening in the first place. And then I had another thought, because sometimes I have like multiple thoughts in a day, which is crazy in itself. But I thought, man, I could literally make a video about injuries, the science behind it. I could make a video about what injuries actually are. I could make a video about how they actually occur. And I could give you the why and the when. I mean, I could give you all of this so that you can use the knowledge to stop injuries happening in your own life, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to make a video about injuries and how to stop them happening. This video is not going to be about injuries, how you recover from them, because I don't want you to have to. So let us talk about the types of injuries that there are really when you're a runner or a triathlete, the two main types anyway. And the first one is trauma. These injuries are things that you can't really do much about. They're the injuries that occur when you're not looking and you step on a root on a tree when you're out on the trails and you sprain your ankle. They're the ones where you're out cycling and a car hits you, like I had. These are trauma injuries and they're largely unavoidable. But then there's the overuse injuries. Now, these are the ones that we commonly pick up. Triathletes and runners alike, they account for the vast majority of our injuries. Now, overuse injuries are when muscle patterns break down, when you get an irritation somewhere in the body, when you might tear a muscle somehow. These are overuse injuries, and the best way that I can equate that to you was exactly the same way that my university tutor equated it to me when I was at university. She said, imagine a bike, and imagine that it had a wheel that was just slightly buckled, just off, and as it went round it rubbed lightly on the frame. Now, you can get away with that for a long time, but there will come a time over a period of time where perhaps that frame has rubbed on the tyre enough for it to wear through to the inner tube, and the inner tube pops. The tyre doesn't work anymore. And think about it like that. Same for the body. Your muscles are superb at compensating for bad movement patterns, but there will come a time when the muscles go, no more thank you, I'm done. That's when you'll start to get injured, and that'll be an overuse injury. Now, the body is interconnected. All of the muscles, all of the tissue, the fascia, everything like that is connected. And then we call it the kinetic chain. So everything has a knock-on effect. So where that pain is presenting, perhaps, let's say your knee, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the injury is. That's where the pain is. Your knee problem could be something to do with a dodgy part of your back. It's that mental. Let me give you an example. Some years ago now, if you've followed the channel for a long time, then you'll know that I was training for the London Marathon in 2019. And in 2019, about 6 or 7 weeks out from the marathon, I had a hip injury, and it was really hampering my training. So I went for a gait analysis, more of that later, and what we found out was that the hip injury was being caused by my left hand facing backwards when I'm running rather than sideways on. So with the left hand facing backwards, I wasn't rotating enough in my left shoulder, which meant I was rotating more in my right shoulder, which meant I was rotating more in my hip, and the hip was the thing that gave out. I've got a fly flying around me, like really bugging me. And the hip was the thing that gave out eventually. It said, no more, I can't compensate anymore. That's where the pain presented. That's the kinetic chain, and you need to appreciate that first. Putting ice on the injury where the pain is presenting might not do anything at all other than relieve the pain, but it's not going to solve the problem. And the second thing is, a more easy piece of advice to give you is, don't stretch an injured area. It's trying to repair, it's trying to get stronger, it's trying to reduce inflammation. Stretching it just prolongs the process, because if a muscle is trying to repair, for example, and then you stretch it, again, micro tears, you're moving it apart rather than letting it heal. So don't stretch an injured area. That's something that I learned at cost, to be honest with you, but I've learnt it now. And rest just reduces the inflammation and takes away the pain. It doesn't necessarily fix the problem. If there's a problem, it's going to flare up potentially again after you've rested. So we need to dive a little more deeply using science. He says, offering you the first piece of advice, which is completely unscientific, but it's something that served me well. So now, when I'm out running, I accept that there will be a level of discomfort, that there will be a level of aches and pains when you're running. That's just what running is. But I've come to an agreement with myself that anything 3 out of 10 or below in terms of pain or discomfort, that's just what running is. That's what it does for you. It's not always easy and it's not always pain-free. If you get to 4 out of 10, stop the session. That's my rule with myself. 4 out of 10, I've been caught out and tried to push through a lot more than that, and I've got really caught out in the past. So my first piece of advice, if you don't want to get injured, stop running through injuries. Stop running through aggravation. Let it heal. Rather 1 week off, chilling out, than 2 months off because you didn't, right? Because that initial tightness, that leads to stiffness when you're not training, say in the morning, and that leads to injury. That's kind of the process that it goes through. It's like tightness, stiffness, injury, aggravation, pain, and you don't want that. So what can you do? What can you do ahead of time to make sure that you don't get injured and you can keep training consistently like we all want to? No one wants to get injured, everyone wants to train consistently, but we've got to do it smartly. So here's some things that you can do ahead of time to make sure you don't have to recover from injury. Let's call it prehab, like I always do. The first thing is, and I know I always bang on about this is just what I'm going to say again, but strength and conditioning. The more you strengthen your muscles, and particularly do movements with kettlebells or dumbbells or body weight, where you go through a range of movement that you might do while you're running, your muscles will get stronger following those patterns, and they will break down less. Because when you're out running, and in particular when you're running long distances, you'll get to a point when you get tired, and if your muscles aren't completely dialed in, if your muscles aren't completely trained and strong, they'll start to break down because you're tired. They're the first thing that goes, the movement pattern. So if you invest in strength and conditioning, then the theory is that you will be able to train for longer, and even when you get tired, your muscles will be able to maintain the patterns they need to go through to stop you picking up those pesky overuse injuries in the first place. So like I said last week, Pilates, yoga, resistance bands, weights, body weight. It doesn't matter what you choose, but choose it and do it consistently, and it will give you a huge, huge chance of avoiding your injuries. That's number one. Number two is drills. Let's get some drills done before sessions. Like, let's work on the patterns that you want your body to go through when you're running. So pick some drills. I've made videos about it. I'll probably link it here or here. I can never remember where. But pick some drills that will help you before your session to dial into the technique that you want during your session. So there's lots of things. If you want to encourage higher knees in your running gait, then do some high knee drills. If you want to encourage a faster cadence, do some fast feet drills to speed up your cadence. All of these things will help you when you're running dial into the right technique. Again, your body will just remember them. And again, seek out professional help. Seek out people that can help you. That might be a physiotherapist like I've sought out, and it might be someone that can help you with a gait analysis like I've sought out. But I put the money up front to make sure that I'm not spending the money on recovering if I can possibly help it. And that was like a game changer for me. Genuinely a game changer, to go from paying to recover to paying to not to have to recover. And the thing is, after injury, what happens is there's a lot of scar tissue build up in the muscle, and you potentially lose some flexibility in whichever muscle that you've injured. So you have to think about, how are you going to get it back to full mobility and longer and lengthen it? And the current thinking, the current theory is to load under tension, and that means eccentric contractions. Let me explain. Eccentric contractions are where you lengthen a muscle under tension, like the lowering phase of a pull-up or a bicep curl, or lowering your heels over the edge of a step to load and strengthen your calf and Achilles area. The science is showing that there are more strength benefits from eccentric contractions with a side order of flexibility, but approach wisely and research first, because it's really hard on the body and can result in what I like to call megadoms. And do I still get injured? Yes, I do, because I'm still learning lessons. Like, I don't know it all. I wish I did, but I don't. I'm still learning about my own body, and I'm still learning about precisely where my levels are. But I'm getting there, and that's the key. I mean, I don't know if this has helped you at all. It is basically a mind dump of the things that I need to get out of my head to help you that I thought of whilst I'm running. It might help. You might already know all of this, but you might not have known some of it. And hopefully by me giving you this information, it has at least taken a percentage chance away of you getting injured in the future. That's my aim. Now, what's coming up for the channel? If you haven't already watched Mary's race in the Running Zone 10K Challenge final, then you definitely need to watch it. I never remember if it's here or here. I say that every time, but it was amazing. But we have got even bigger things coming up, believe it or not, which is mental to me. We're running UTMB, the baby one to start with. We'll have a view on it next year. I'm running a 50-kilometer trail race, multiple half marathons coming up, maybe even some aquathlons, triathlons, swimathons. We've got it all. Swimathons. We've got it all, and it's all coming up. I just hope this has helped you, and I hope it's convinced you to stick around on the channel and join the journey, because this community is something that blows my mind daily, and I would love you to be a part of it. Okay, that's me done. This week's video coming up, alpha flies versus vapor flies, which is faster using dubious scientific methods, but you know, for a bit of fun. Stick around for that, because it is going to be a good one. We already have some data and it is very interesting, but you need to hang around until Sunday to watch that, so see you there.